We're going to look at the problems that are like 32, 53 from your benchmark, 2E and 2F, which was all about parallel and perpendicular lines. 2E was the new test type, which said write the equation of the line parallel. So it's kind of like one of the problems that we're going to do in our packet today. And then 53 was something about a perpendicular line. So just look and see how you did so you can see how much you need this. Most people need both of these problems because they missed them both. So let's look at our vocabulary. We need to go ahead and update that. So today is all about parallel and perpendicular lines, so we need to remember what that means. So I'm going to write parallel lines. That means keep same slope. So if a line says that your slope is 2/3, then the line that's parallel is also 2/3. So you're going to keep the same slope.
The answer is
Perpendicular lines, we actually have to flip, change the slope. So you're always going to have to find the slope. So y equals mx plus b, where your slope is m. The perpendicular slope would be whenever you flip and change your sign. So let's say that the slope is 2/3. Parallel would also be 2/3, but perpendicular, I'm going to put P-E-R-P, perpendicular slope is you would flip it and change the sign. So it would be, flip it 2/3 would be 3/2 and change the sign to negative 3/2. So that's for perpendicular lines because they cross at a 90-degree angle. So you flip and change the sign of the slope. Flip, change the slope. So we have some steps that we're going to look over to help us do some example problems. Yes, we are. Thank you. Step one, identify the slope of the given line. So for standard form equations, you will need to rewrite the slope, y equals mx plus b. M is your slope. Then you want to read the question and determine the slope of the line, either parallel, means keep, okay, perpendicular, means flip, change. So you got to know which one you're doing. Either you're keeping it the same slope or flipping and changing, depending on if it's parallel or perpendicular. Then, step three, eliminate answer choices that have the incorrect slope. Normally, you can narrow it down to 2 answers. Then, step four, we can use our calculator. Type the possible answer choice into y equals. Check the table to see if it passes through the given point. Remember, the x-intercept and the y-intercept are just points, or you can look at it on the graph. But the x-intercept is a number, comma, 0. So let's say you have the xy graph, x-axis and y-axis. An x-intercept would be where it crosses the x. So this would be an x-intercept. So say it's at 4, 0. And then a y-intercept would be where it crosses y-axis. So let's say it goes right here, negative 3, 0. We just need to remember what your x and y-axis look like so you can actually look at the graph. Oh, Oh, no, this would be 0, -3. Yep. Yes. Sorry about that. All right. Let's look at the example. It says, what is the slope of the line parallel to that? So in order to find the slope, we need to solve for what? Because it's not in y equals mx plus b. So rewrite the equation. So I need to move my x. I'm going to subtract 6x on both sides. But I wanted to say y equals mx plus b. So I can't combine an x with a non-x. So I'm going to put -6x plus 3. I can't combine those. And this is in mx plus b. Then we're going to divide by 2. So the 2's cancel. So we have y equals -6 over 2 is -3. And then 3 over 2 is just 1.5. So sometimes you have to solve for y, which gives you an extra step to do. But now we can answer the question. It says, what is the slope of the line parallel to that? Well, we know the slope is -3. So a parallel slope is -3. It's the same. But perpendicular, like the second problem, what is the slope of a line perpendicular? You'd have to flip change. So it would have to be, so m equals -3 over 1. So the perpendicular slope, you have to flip it. If there's nothing on the bottom, then you'd put a 1. So we'd flip it. It'd be 1 over 3 and change the sign. So it'd be a positive 1 over 3. So this is parallel. M equals -3. Perpendicular is positive 1 over 3. Okay, one last thing. Don't forget about Hoy Bucks. So Hoy means horizontal line where m equals 0, and the equation is written as y equals some number, wherever it crosses the y-axis. And then Vux is a vertical line where m is undefined. So undefined and 0 slopes are perpendicular to each other. And you're going to write x equals a number. Okay, so go ahead and take a second to glue this in on page 120. We're going to glue this right here on 120. And then on page 121, we have an example to write down. I'm going to pause it. So let's look at the problem. So we're going to follow the steps. So step 1, identify the slope of the given equation. So we'll read number 1. What is the equation in standard form of a line that passes through the point 6, -1, and is parallel to the line represented by 8x plus 3y equals 15? So the first thing we need to do is identify the slope. This is in standard form. So that means we need to rewrite it. Back when we learned this, probably in October, I did teach y'all about to find the slope from standard form. If you remember this, you can do it. The slope is found by doing -a over b. But that's not something that's on your formula chart. So if you don't know that, then the best way to do it is just solve. I'm going to put or solve for y. If you can't remember this, which if you didn't use it back then you don't need to use it now. I don't want to give you something new to remember. This always works. Solving for y always works. So let's go ahead and write down our original equation. Circle it, write it down. So we need to solve for y. You can use this step if you want to, and you can move on with the problem. Or you can do this with me. I'm going to subtract 8x on both sides. Get 3y equals, I want mx plus b, so I'm going to keep them separate and put the negative 8x first. Then divide by 3 all the way through. Usually slope is written as a fraction, so we're going to keep it that way. Negative 8 over 3x, then 15 over 3 is 5. So step 1 was identifying the slope. Slope, negative 8 over 3. Then step 2 says read the question, determine the slope of the line parallel or perpendicular to the given. So this one wants us to have perpendicular. So that means keep same slope. So your answer is going to have this same slope. So step 3 says eliminate the answer choices that don't have the right slope. So we would look at our answer choices. None of these are written in y equals form either. But what you can check is that they have the same left side. So look at the left side of our original, 8x plus 3y. I'm going to narrow down the ones that do not say 8x plus 3y. So A is going to have the correct slope. B is not. Mark out B. C is going to have the correct slope because we're just looking for 8x plus 3y. D, it's not right. So now we've narrowed it down. So step 4, type the possible answer choices into y equals, see which one goes through this point. Well, we can't put these into y equals because they're not written as y equals. But look at how they're almost the same thing. The only thing different is this says a negative 45, and this says positive 45. So we're going to solve answer choice A. Put out A right here. We have 8x plus 3y equals negative 45. So we want to solve this so that way we can put it into y equals in the calculator. Negative 8x. Three y equals negative 8x minus 45. Divide by 3 all the way through. Y equals negative 3x, which is the right slope that we want. And then negative 45 divided by 3. Put in your calculator if you don't know it right away. Negative 15. So we want to see if this line, we know it's going to be parallel to this one because it's the same slope. We just want to see, does it go through this point? So we're going to put this into y equals and then look at the table of values. So get out your calculator and do that with me. So then go to your table, and I want to see if 6, negative 1 is on there. So if you look at the table, go where x is 6, that's a negative 31. So that means that A is not it, because it doesn't go through the right point. It's supposed to go through 6, negative 1, so it doesn't. So it has to be C, but we just want to check it. The only thing different about C compared to A is the last number is positive instead of negative. So that means that this is going to be negative 8 over 3x plus 15 because that's the only change that it has. The exact same equation. So when we put this in, we'll change that to plus 15. And then look at your table and see if it's 6, -1. And it is. So that means C is the correct answer. Okay. So this was the only one that we had to deal with the standard form. Let's go to number 2. Go ahead and read that to yourself. Okay, so first step is to identify the slope of the given line. Well, it's already mx plus b. So the slope is -2/3. Step 2 says read the question, determine if we're talking about parallel or perpendicular. So perpendicular means we're going to flip change. So our new slope, go ahead and flip -2/3. So that's going to be 3/2 and change the sign. So from negative to positive. Negative to positive. So then it says step 3, eliminate answer choices that have incorrect slope. So our equation should have a slope of 3/2. So circle all the slopes. That way we can figure out which answer choices we can eliminate. Yep, these are not right. So then our next step is to type the possible choices into y equal, check the table to see it passes through the given point. The given point is it crosses the x-axis at 4. So we can actually just look at the graph instead. Let's just sketch out what that's going to look like. It says it's going to cross the x-axis at 4. So we know it's going to cross at 4. So we've got to decide which one of these is going to cross at 4. So step 4 says plot your answer choice in. So go to y equals, and we're going to plot that in, or put that into y equals. Alpha y equals to get the fraction, and you pick the first one. So put that in, and we can just look at the graph. Does it pass through 4 on the x-axis? No. It passes through -4. So go back and change that to minus. It should be j. Let's just double check. Once you put that into y equals, graph it, and it does. So j is the only one that works. Hey, I'm going to walk around as you do 3, 4, and 5. So number 4, 3 and 4 you should have done. Number 5, it says, what is the equation of slope-intercept formula line that crosses the x-axis at 36? So it's kind of like the other one. But this time, it's at 36 right here. So you are going to have to look at graph and zoom out. Okay? So follow the steps. So if you're like, I don't even know what to do, these steps will help you. So you've got to follow the steps. 1, identify the slope. 2, read the question, determine. 3, eliminate answer choices based on the slope. 4, either look at the table or look at the graph or put it into y equals. We're going to do number 6 because it doesn't have answer choices, so this is a little different. There was one like this on your benchmark. It says, what is the equation slope-intercept form of the line that passes through the point -3, 0, parallel to the line, y equals 3.2x plus 7.3. Instead of doing it on here, we're actually going to do it on here and the little graph paper, okay? So this does say parallel. So that means we're going to keep the same slope. So if we look at the slope, it's 3.2. So M equals 3.2. I don't know why I wrote it so simple. Anyway, we do need to write this as a fraction. It'd be like 3.2 over 1, but that's not going to help us either. Everybody go to their calculator, go to the home screen. Let's convert in your journal. Let's convert the 3.2 to a fraction. Go 3.2, then hit math, enter, and that changes it to 16 over 5. So that is my slope. So the way we're going to do this, since we don't have answer choices, we are going to use graph paper, and we're going to plot this point. I'm going to use graph paper. Plot point first. Okay, so think about a slope of 16 over 5. That means we are going to have to plot a point and then count up 16 and over 5. That means our graph is going to have to be big enough to be able to go up 16 over 5. So I'm going to make my y-axis just kind of down the middle. But my x-axis is going to have to go more toward the bottom because I have to think about counting up 16 and right 5. So you should be following along and graphing this. So I'm going to put it right here, and hopefully that gives me enough space to go up 16 and right 5. So we're going to plot the point. The point here is negative 3, 0. So if you think about the point, you're going to just go negative 3, 0. Then you're going to M equals rise over run to get another point. So I'm going to count up 16 over 5. So put your pen or pencil on that point that we have. We're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's a really steep incline. So start here and rise 16 and run 5 because that is our slope. So there's going to be a line that connects these 2 points. So I'm going to use my calculator to kind of estimate that line. It's going to look like it's not going to be perfect, but it'll be something like that. So I know that this point is at negative 3, 0. So go ahead and label that point. And then this point, we need to find the coordinates for that point. So that would be 216, yeah. So if we're asked to write an equation, then that means we need to use linear regression. So we're going to go stats, do L1, L2, and then do linear regression to write the equation. So go to stats, edit. We're going to put those 2 points in. So negative 3, 0, 2, 16. And then goes back to stat, over to calc, Number 4, y'all can just follow along with my calculator. Linear regression, and it gives us the equation. So y equals 3.2x plus 9.6. So that is the equation of the line. You do need to glue this little piece of graph paper in there because this is going to help you as you correct your benchmark.